Hello, and we are live, and I am not alone today. I have one of my favorite people. You love her too, Laura Preston, with me. But I want to start today's episode with what we talked about in the last episode. So if you haven't watched it or listened to it, either way, I would really encourage you to go back and do that because we are building on a theme all throughout the month of February. And our word of the year in Berry Aftercare is accountability. So the word for this week is consistency. And I also threw in self efficacy, which, of course, that one's hard to remember. What is it? It means I think I can do this. So I took those three things together because we're working on accountability all year. Our word of this month is consistency. And I had a patient ask me about, could you talk about self efficacy? So I thought, you know what? Those three things really, really go well together because if you are consistent with a behavior, you are increasing your accountability. And if you use an accountability measure like an app or a buddy or whatever, that helps you with your consistency. So it's a reciprocal relationship there. The more consistent you are, the more accountable you are. The more accountability you add, the more consistent you're going to be. And what does that do for your thought process? If I think I can do this, absolutely increases it. So Laura, who's a huge part of the Berry Aftercare program, said when she heard that, and I'm going to bring her on in just a minute. She's sitting here so nice and quiet, like such a beautiful woman. Um, that doesn't mean beautiful women are quiet. Don't make that. That's not what I'm saying. Because she's really quiet, but I'm like, damn, she's just sitting there waiting. Um, she said it made me think of vitamins. And I thought that is a very good point because a lot of people struggle to be consistent with their vitamin intake, and that is critical. So, we're going to talk about that in light of being consistent and accountability. So, we're going to always kind of bring things back together because our goal this year is to help you be more accountable and more consistent. So, hi, Laura, welcome again.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
You're always my favorite person to have. Okay, so you have had you are a post-op of how many years now?
It's going to be 18 or 19 next month.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
that's a really good amount of time to have learned a thing or two about being a post-op, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
all
definitely
of
given
this
me,
time.
yeah, it's given me a lot of time under my belt to speak from a point of reference, and it's not always good.
Well, your point of reference is more than from a post-op because you've been active in this community the whole time, professionally and personally. So you come from a place of a lot of experience and not just your own, but because you worked in the community as a professional, you've got the input from thousands of people. So
Mm.
you're a great person to speak about this. And I want to hear about how your first thought or one of them was about consistency in vitamins. So take us there. Tell us this process.
Well, in Berry Aftercare, and I'm in there as a member, like I'm a contributing in there member, like living the life, like because I
Okay,
need to be
just
dialed in.
pause for a second, girl, because yeah, you're a member, but you are so much more than that. You are an
No, but
organizer.
okay, I might be an organizer and a thought person, but my point is when I think about the word consistency, I was really excited when you threw that word out for the month of February because accountability and consistency are two of my favorite things. I love them, but I also hate them. But
For sure.
for me to be well and successful and live a happy, healthy life, both of them are critically important because there's been times in life over the last 19 years where I've unplugged from one of them and it's had great repercussions. So when I think about the word consistency, it brings up into me as a long-term bariatric person. Anytime you and I've talked, I've always talked about when you first have bariatric surgery, it's a full-time job the first year. It's a full-time job. And there's a lot of things you have to be consistent on. You come home from the hospital and you have a laundry list. And you get all these things. You know, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this and it's just I want to say to survive and it sounds dramatic, but to get in enough water, to eat enough protein, to do like it is like total life change, but you're good with it because you can't wait for that weight to come off. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm going to
Right.
do all the things. I promised Connie in my eval, I promised the doctor, I promised everybody, the insurance company, if you give me the surgery, I promise you I'm going to do all the things because there's a giant, huge, dramatic, even in the last podcast, you said that first year, the weight loss, you're willing to go the miles, you know? And a lot of the things are instant and you do them. So in the beginning, I remember consistency being, oh my God, keep drinking water, keep drinking water. And how much protein? Did you track your food? How much protein? How much protein? 120 milligrams or grams of protein a day. There were words that just stuck to you. And there were other things that you knew that you should be doing that you're like, the
Yeah.
weight's coming off. Those vitamins, is that a thing? And a lot of times you walk out with like, oh, you're going to have to take vitamins. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Vitamins are whole life. People should take vitamins. Nobody
Well,
is probably
when you and I were talking about the pre-surgical education, and when
Mhm.
you had your surgery 19 years ago, that whole thing was just ramping up. Today,
Right.
it's much different than it was before then. But even with that, some programs are really good about teaching about the importance of a bariatric specific vitamins and some aren't. So
Right.
where was it when you started the process and what have you learned, you know?
Well, I can tell you that 19 years ago when I got handed my folder, like it was a little folder, it wasn't a binder. It wasn't a series of videos. It was a folder with like something stapled.
Mhm.
And I remember for me, those vitamins, like I remember going into my very first drugstore. I was living in New York. I had my surgery and I was a big obesity help girl because that's all there was back then, right? And there was a woman on there called Vita Lady. And it was a
Ah.
woman and her husband, and they had vitamins, and you could order from her, and she would ship them to you. And she was a big entity on obesity help. And I had followed and followed and followed, and it was calcium and a multivitamin, and it was a bunch of things that aren't things now. But I remember getting this box of vitamins, and when I opened it up, because I was going to the expert, the person I had spent so much time researching on obesity help, because it was the only place. I didn't know what an ASMBS was back then. This woman, like, she was the top chick. And I ordered vitamins from her. She shipped them to me, and I opened the box, and it was literally stuff I could have bought at my own drugstore. Like,
Oh,
it was
man.
third party, but I mean, hats off to her for being that entrepreneur back in the day, like buying
Yeah.
bulk and then breaking it down. This is before the land of vitamins. Like, it's before the
Mhm.
brands you all know in here now weren't a thing back then. You would go to the drugstore, and I had the list that said Flintstones. And I remember
Right.
having on my list iron, and I remember it telling me ferrous sulfate. It had different forms of iron, and I remember going to the drugstore and getting the pharmacist, because I was that big of a dork back then, to come out from behind the pharmacy and come look at the shelf of iron because I couldn't find that kind of iron.
Mm.
And I couldn't
Mhm.
find they told me to chew Tums, which is calcium carbonate, not calcium citrate. So I had the little list and I went to the pharmacy and I did everything I was told. And I ordered from the lady on obesity help and got third party vitamins and thought, I can go do this myself, you know? And that's when I was like, what the heck? And I did the thing.
What do you mean by third-party vitamins, by the way?
Meaning it wasn't her brand. I wasn't buying Vita
Okay.
Lady brand, meaning she was selling, like, I can't even think off the top of my head. It'd be like I got a thing of Costco, I got a thing of Twin
Okay.
whatever, like brands you could get everywhere, but
Right.
she was condensing them and shipping them to people. And there was no protocol for duodenal switch and gastric bypass and lap band. It was just vitamins.
Right. Okay.
So
So let me bring self-efficacy into this real quick. So when you started this process, did you always think, "Yeah, I can do this. I can do this." Did you have that? Was it part of your life?
my whole life, I grew up with a mom and parents that told me you can be whatever you want to be, right? And
Okay.
so my whole life, I was going to be a veterinarian, I was going to be a Broadway dancer, I was going to be all kinds of things my whole life. I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to be all
Yeah.
these things. I had all these, little girl dreams. I'm going to move to New York City. I want to be a fashion designer. I want to be this, So my whole life, I've always had that. I've always been supported with you're going to have to work hard, but if whatever you want to do, you can do. You can figure it out and do it. My weight is something I always wanted to lose. And my whole life have been battling weight. My whole life. My whole life, Weight Watchers, Formula 3, you name it. My mom would sign me up. She would take me, I had the best parents ever. My dad side of the family struggled with weight. So did I grow up with I think I can? Sure. And I had lost 100 pounds multiple times in my life, you
Mm,
know? But when I
mhm,
had bariatric surgery, I was exhausted, and I was like,
mhm,
I've done it, I know I can, but why
mhm,
in the beepity beep beep doesn't it
mhm.
can I not keep it? Why can I lose 100 pounds and not keep 100 pounds off? What is
Right.
wrong? What is broken? So when I had
Mhm.
bariatric surgery, I was at the end of my rope. I was like, "I
Okay.
can't do this anymore. I can't." So did I think I could? Yeah, but what you said in that podcast was, "Why is this time gonna be different?" And when people tell you to look back and look for patterns, the pattern is you can lose 100 and you're gonna gain it back. My whole life.
Well, that's about consistency, right? So it's about not consistently following through with the things you did when you lost those 100 pounds. And a lot of that is because you lose the accountability when you're not involved in a program.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so back to this vitamin thing. So you get the vitamins from Vitalady, and they didn't
Vitally.
really stress the importance of vitamins at the beginning or bariatric specific. And like you said, there was no protocol. If you had the lap band, which was real big in the back in those days, these are the vitamins you take. If you had the gastric bypass, these are what you take. If you
Nope.
had the okay, so how did this lack of information about vitamins and the lack of consistency of taking them, how does this matter as a post-op of 19 years?
So for me, in the beginning, I took them. I took them whatever, but then it was like the weight's falling off. I'm going to the gym. It's like my consistency, accountability, and focus was obsessively on drinking my water, to eating my protein, going to the gym and getting as much weight off as I could. And I want to say as fast as I can, but I don't mean it in crazy land. But like, I'm going to follow all of this because I'm going to be a good post op. This is going to work. It's going to be amazing. And it's like that whole vitamin world, like when those bottles went empty, maybe you go to the drugstore and pick them up, but you didn't. Even today, when I don't take my vitamins, I don't feel a difference. Hate to break it to the world. I do not. Like I don't. So back then, it's like the weight is coming off, everything is fine, and my vitamin world was like, take it here and there, maybe pick it up, da 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 da. And then the first year, boom, I'm back in, 6 month checkup, 1 year checkup, everything is good. My labs are great. 2 year checkup, I did my labs. I've never not done my labs.
Mhm.
Everything was great. Everything was wonderful. The weight's coming off. I'm maintaining. Life is great until the day I was at work one day in Chicago at Nordstrom and I
How
had
many
gone to the
years
doctor
out? How many years
a
out?
lot of years out, like a lot, like 10 years out, a lot of
And
years
were you
out. Made
taking
sure
Flintstones? Were you doing anything consistently vitamin-wise?
here and there
Okay,
because I was health and wellness girl. I'm in the gym. I'm hanging out with trainers. I worked at Lifetime. I knew a lot about gym. I'm taking like glucosamine for my knees and my joints. I'm taking a regular multivitamin because my labs are great. I go
right.
every year. My labs are great. And then one year I went and had my labs done and they literally called me at work and they're like, you need to go report to the hospital. Your
What?
iron is like, yeah, my iron's like a 2, like off the rails, like had dropped.
Whoa.
Like they literally were like, now. I called my mom and of course me, I'm not leaving work. I will finish the day, go home, pack a bag, and I'll go later tonight, but I'm fine. I'm working like 12-hour days at Nordstrom. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm crazy. And so my mom, I was freaking out because I had to go to the hospital. I had to have blood infusion. Like I had to have blood, like 6 bags of blood. I
Wow.
had to have colonoscopy because they had to rule out internal bleeding because my iron was so low. Like I had to have
What?
all this stuff because of my iron level. And it literally depleted
Wow.
in 1 year. It just bottomed. And I'm going to tell you right now, it was a nightmare. I was in the
Do we
hospital
know
for
what that's
24
about?
hours. Huh?
Do we know what that's about and why it dropped so quickly?
Gastric bypass. And I was like I was in my 30s, you know what I mean? And, still having a cycle, all the things, being a woman, working like a dog at Nordstrom's, running a big division at Nordstrom's. And it was like my iron bottomed out to the point my mom's on a train coming. I'm being admitted to a hospital.
Oh
And I'm
my
like, what
god.
is going on?
That's
But my iron
terrifying.
bottomed. So it's like that consistency. I didn't
Mhm.
have that consistency, and it
Right.
scared the bejesus out of me because here I am
I
living this
bet.
best life and I'm thinner and I feel like $1 million. I'm selling $1 million at Nordstrom. Like life is good. I'm living in Chicago. But it scared me to death. Like, why am I having bags of blood? Whose blood is this? Like, I'm freaking out.
Yes.
I'm not old enough for a colonoscopy. And
Right.
literally, I had to go for iron infusions, like heavy ones, big push iron infusions. And it probably took me 5 or 6 years. I had to have infusions 3 times in my history
Oh my gosh.
because it takes that long to build an iron level back up. You can rebuild it, and not everybody, it's whether your body will reabsorb it and get you back to where you were. But there's a lot of things about vitamins that bottom out that you can't rebuild. You can't put calcium back inside your bones. That's not a thing. So
Wow.
for
Okay.
me, the idea of consistency, when you said to me, we're going to talk about consistency and I want to do a case study, like what can we talk about and really dig into? Immediately, I said vitamins because I was in the hospital because I wasn't consistent with vitamins. And being the person I am, that's what sent me off the rails. Like that's when I became obsessed with vitamins. And that's when I sought out vitamins and dug in and learned all the things that nobody told. And even back in the day, I would say 6 years ago, nobody was telling or teaching patients. It was like a little piece of paper. And people today will still tell you can take Flintstones. Like I would literally will get on a rant. But that's why for me, consistency, immediately vitamins. And number two would be movement because we all work out in the beginning because we feel better in our body. But
Right.
are you still working out 10 years later or 12 years
Mhm.
later? And what do you need to do to work out to be at the level and the loss you want? Because
Yeah.
I know for me to be a certain number, I would have to work out 2 hours a day, period. No matter what I'm eating, no matter whatever, that's just my body. So for me, consistency and the land of bariatrics, the two things that I think people are on and off and on and off, like people drink water, people eat protein, but moving their bodies and taking
Mhm.
their vitamins, they're really, really good or they're really bad.
You wanna know what something funny that I heard today, and this is really relevant because I always say weight loss surgery is like marriage. There's so many decisions to make, and it's so exciting at the beginning. Well, today I was listening to a guided meditation. It literally started with what do diets, starting a new job, marriage, and something else have in common. And it was, they're all exciting when you begin them, but maintaining consistency to do the things, I'm like, hello, so true. And so, yeah, I forgot to mention the part that we're going to talk about a case study, and because Laura immediately thought of items, and we're trying to help people develop consistency and hold them accountable. So this whole month, we're going to continue with this theme of vitamins because it's so lacking. So you discovered there's a problem, right? There's a problem community wide. Nobody told me the importance of a vitamin. So you ran into a physical problem, and there are others, right? Teeth,
Oh,
bones. What other things have you heard of from people over the years that have been problematic because a lack of vitamins?
I mean, there's a lot of scary things when it comes to vitamins. I mean, there's three big vitamins in the land of bariatrics that are the core key vitamins. It's your multivitamin, your iron, and your calcium. But there's elements of those vitamins inside the vitamin. Like a multivitamin has tons of vitamins in it. That's why it's a
Right,
multi, right? Has lots of vitamins in one vitamin. But like thiamine is a vitamin that is a big deal. It's like neurological. Like there's been people that have had gotten beriberi, and B12 is another vitamin that is crucial. When it comes to vitamins, B12 matters a lot in bariatric land.
right,
Thiamine matters a lot in and when those levels deplete, it affects other bodily functions. So there's
right,
been stories about bariatric patients being in the hospital in neurological situations because lack of thiamine, and it is not a cookie cutter. Like some
right,
people struggle with B12. Some people, have too much B12. Some people get shots. That's why you have to have a lab every year because I can't right now say, here's the magic prescription for everybody. If you all take this and do just what this says, you're going to be
right,
fine. You have to have a lab every year. You have to.
right.
When I hit menopause and I stopped having a cycle, my iron totally knocked its crap off. because I
Mm,
didn't have that blood deficiency and the flow and all of that.
mhm.
Like, I have not had the same iron issues at all for the last couple years.
Wow,
So I've changed my
interesting.
vitamin regimen, scared to
Mhm.
death to do it.
Right,
Something before I would never do ever. I do
right.
now. I
Yep.
have a
So
combination
so
vitamin that
these
I
things
never.
that you did initially consistently, like people do, because like you said, we feel better. So if you don't do them, you don't take the vitamins, you end up with deficiencies and all these issues. If you don't exercise consistently like you do in the beginning, then you're going to run into regain and you're going to run into a lack of, you're going to not have the strength
Right.
to be functional as you get older. If you don't stay tuned into things like, oh, am I emotionally eating? Initially people are all like, oh my God, I'm an emotional eater. But then you kind of get back into your life and you forget about the bariatric basics.
Yeah, but the
And
point that I really want to drive in all three of those examples that you gave is there is no magic answer for everybody because you have
correct,
bariatric surgery. I don't want to eat. I have to set alarms to eat because I'm not hungry and the ghrelin and everything. Your body goes through this whole thing, your honeymoon world, right? You don't want to eat. Like you don't even have a desire, you don't crave, you don't do the things. But just like that, real life happens and this is the rest of your life. So
right,
I might not emotionally eat for the first 3 years because I'm so happy, because
right.
I'm not hungry, because there's this whole list of reasons why emotional eating was not a thing for 3 or 4 years. I didn't think about it, and when I thought about food, I was afraid of sugar, I was afraid of fatty, greasy, it will make me sick, I'll dump. So it wasn't a thing, but guess what? Somebody wants a divorce? Now emotional eating is knocking on your door. You know what I mean? Guess
Right.
what? You don't have bad labs, so I don't need to take those vitamins. You're living your best life. And if you don't have yearly labs, you don't need vitamins, but all of a sudden it's a crisis. In working out, in the beginning, you lost all this weight. Your body feels amazing, right? Your body, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to do a 10K. Everybody is like these elite athletes in the first 2 or 3, 10 years out. Maybe some, but very few are probably running a marathon because guess what? The weight comes off, and guess what? Now there's some arthritis. Now your knees hurt. Now this hurts. So again, real life happens and things maybe you weren't consistent in or the way you did them. I consistently go to the gym for 2 hours every single day. I don't know if you're going through a divorce and you're now emotional eating. Do you have time to go to the gym 2 hours a day if you have to have a part time job to pay for your life because you're living in an apartment because you're going through a divorce? So consistency matters, and it matters, and
Exactly.
things will become different priorities over the years. But that's
Yeah.
where you and I have this thing about when something's broke, we're going to fix it. We're going to dig
Right.
in because we have that
Right.
personality. And that's where I'm going to say the gotta doums. You were like, I don't understand why patients don't get it. So you create a gotta doums. Here's a list. It's a checklist. Print it. Check
Help
off. I
with
did my part.
accountability and consistency. Absolutely. And the
Right.
mind prep videos, I'm like, whoa, there's a problem here. People aren't getting the information about what is going to happen emotionally and psychologically down the road. Here's some information. So, yeah, we see a problem, we work on fixing it. I write the books. And then what did you do
I got
with
mad
having you
because
saw?
I'm mad that I feel terrible. I'm mad that I'm anemic. I mean, I was anemic. I was labeled anemic. Like I was always tired, but I thought I was a workaholic because I would work crazy hours as a manager at Nordstrom's and I'd be at the gym and I'd be at Flywheel and doing spin classes. And I mean, it is no what the doctor said to me, I don't know how you are getting out of bed, let alone you have an iron level of 2. And I'm like, well, I'm Laura Preston. So hi, I don't, but it scared the crap out of me. Like if I would have gotten hit or been in an accident, I probably would have bled out before an emergency.
Yes.
My blood was a hot mess. So for me, it scared the crap out of me. And then the thing about Laura Preston, I got mad. I got mad. I did the homework. I sat on obesity help for years. I did my labs every year. I went to the surgeon. I researched. It took me years to decide to have surgery. How did I not know this?
Yeah.
So then
So you did a deep dive.
I did a deep dive and I went to conferences and I talked to the brands and I talked to people and I was like, look at these labs and look at this and look at this. And I became obsessed. And then I'm like, I'm fixing this. I'm teaching everybody. Nobody should have to have an iron. sit there for hours, 6 hours having iron
Oh
infusions
my
with
god.
sitting in the lab with everybody else around me having having chemo for cancer and I'm getting iron. It's like that serious. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I was
Right.
like, "Oh, no, 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 no." Like, I'm gonna get loud and proud. And I literally dug in, picked a brand, and I literally met one of the reps from the brand, and I literally like, she would do phone calls with me. And I was back in the Laura Preston days by myself on YouTube, on Facebook, before, like, Facebook Live, back in the days of this app called Periscope, all the like, way back before this world, and I would go live and I made an idiot of myself. I would say the words
Aw.
wrong. I would say calcium citrical, like I couldn't even say them because it was like it was brain surgery for me. I didn't know there
I
was
love
different
it
types
though.
of calcium.
You were
And
trying to educate people.
I'm trying to like share it and tell. I cut out things in that brand's logos and put it behind me on a bulletin board. And they would send me vitamins. This is before there was influencers. And I would talk about them. I'd be like, they sent me this and I would chew it and I like it. I don't. And every time I went to conferences, I would find them and I
Oh,
loved them.
wow.
It was fun.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I did a deep dive and I became obsessed with wanting to work in the bariatric industry because how, and even then, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And so,
Of course.
speed up, I ended up going to work for a vitamin company. And I would sit every Tuesday on a conference call from 1 to 4. That was a block when I first got hired. And I went in as
Wow.
and from 1 to 4, there was an employee in the company that literally taught me vitamins from day one. Would have to phonetically write things out on how do I say duodenal. How do I say that? What does that surgery mean? I had a gastric bypass. I was a loud, mouthy patient. You know what I mean? I'm not a scientist. I was a patient, but I was mad and I was passionate. And I literally, for months, every Tuesday from 1 to 4, I had a
Wow.
with this brilliant person that literally deep dove me and taught me everything I know today about vitamins came from her.
A
100,000%
dietitian.
a dietitian. And I got madder. I got madder. And when I learned what the ASMBS was, I was like, why isn't this on the front of the bottles? Like, why don't we teach people how to read a bottle? Why don't we teach a patient like I'm gonna own it. If I'm a patient, I owned it before. I ordered vitamins from Vitalady. Like I should have made the choice. And then I looked at all the other brands out there that were bariatric, and I'm like, so when I found out about an ASMBS guideline, I wrote it all down, and then I would take vitamin bottles and be like, that doesn't meet the guideline. Why can you sell? Because vitamins are not governed by the FDA. It's a free for all.
Okay.
So, and that's going deep into vitamin land. But the point is I got mad. I got passionate. I was going to fix it. And down that rabbit hole I went. And I spent five
Well,
years.
let me just butt in here for just a second because what you did in getting mad and looking at so if people don't know what the ASMBS is, it's the American AM
American
American
Society of Metabolic Bariatric
Metabolic
Surgery.
Bariatric Surgery. So it's the physicians, the dietitians, the psychologists, the social workers, the mental health people, the allied health, and the surgeons who make up the governing body of bariatric surgery. They write the criteria, they come up with the guidelines, da 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 da. So what you're saying is there was a set of guidelines set out by the professionals in the top organization,
Mhm.
but patients A didn't know it, and B, the bariatric vitamin companies were selling products that didn't even meet the criteria. Do I have that straight?
You have it straight, but I want to be real careful here because this is a long time ago, right? Like these are
Yeah.
years ago because nobody was talking about it. Your
Right.
own surgeon, you didn't know what ASMBS was. You didn't know any of these things. And so it was very scary land because you got mouthy, loud me who's mad. Never a good combination. And it was like, I'm telling everybody this crap. And it would be like, reel it in. You are not gonna go live on Facebook and say the ASMBS. I'm like, yes, I am. Like, why not?
Mhm.
Why not? Like, I don't
Yes.
care about politics. I don't care about surgeons. I don't care. I care about not having another iron infusion. And the
Right.
thing say about education, because why we are going to do a deep dive on vitamins, it's not just vitamins. Registered dietitians practices say different things. And it's
Yep.
like you owe yourself and your body education.
Right.
I always like to say when you know better, you do better. We both agree that's not true. When you know better, you have the option of choosing better. But
That's
if
right.
I would have known what vitamins to take, and if I would have known this is going to mean 5 years of rebuilding and you're going to feel terrible and your nails are peeling and you're going to be weak and I would have been eating iron 3 meals a day if I had to. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Yeah.
how dare you not give me all the information? How dare
Right.
you not explain my surgery? If people can't sit down and draw their surgery, you shouldn't have had that surgery.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
for me, when it came to vitamins, yes, I was crazy enough that I went on Facebook and messaged the president of the ASMBS because
I
he was
love it.
speaking at a WLSFA conference. And I said, "Can I buy you a cup of coffee and can we have lunch? I have some questions."
I love it. So WLSFA, for those who don't know, is an organization called Weight Loss Surgery Foundation of America, run by patients, and the intention is to gather say get money so that somebody you can grant a surgery to somebody who can't afford it, doesn't have insurance.
Right.
So that's
And
what
so
that foundation.
professionals will come to the WLSFA and they'll speak, like
Right.
huge surgeons from across the country, people sponsor stuff. And these are the kind of conferences back in the day, before the bariatric societies and the Bari Nations and everything that's out there today. Back in the day, there were certain obesity help, WLSFA, OAC, the Obesity Action Coalition. There were these patient conferences. But I sat with the president of the ASMBS. I don't know
Good
who I
for
thought I
you.
was.
Now, that is
And he,
self-efficacy right there, girl. If a
right,
woman doesn't have self-esteem and self-efficacy, she's not gonna email
right.
the president of ASMBS.
And I had done a vitamin challenge at the company I had worked with where I got people to sign up and I taught them the ASMBS guidelines. And then the very last thing, I had them write into me to win a year's supply of vitamins or something. They had to tell me what they learned. And I printed every person in the challenge off their emails and I hole punched
Love
and put them in a binder. And when I sat down with the president of the ASMBS, I showed him what I did. I showed him the ASMBS guidelines that I had our company create and even then, the owner of the company didn't want to do it because everybody was afraid. And I'm like, we're doing this.
it.
And I sat down and I showed it to the president. And I said, I taught all these patients your guidelines.
Right.
I did this for you. Why aren't you doing this? Why isn't there an ASMBS platform for patients? Why isn't there a sticker on vitamins that vitamin companies have to call the ASMB or submit their products and they give them a sticker to put on it. We approve this product. It is ASMBS
Right.
certified. I stirred pots like there was no tomorrow. But that president, and I'm going to say his name, Dr. Matar, I loved him. He didn't think I was a crazy patient. He literally was like, that's a great idea. The president of our company flew out, met with them. I mean, there were conversations here and there. I stirred the pot so much in that industry with the guidelines. And we started saying, I start teaching patients, I'm not going to tell you what vitamin to take. I'm going to teach you how to read the label. And then you tell me, does your vitamin make the cut?
I love that. Boy, you know what? Pot stirrers like you make change. You're a
Well,
change
and it
maker.
did. And I mean, I will pat myself on the back because I know the 5 years I spent in the vitamin
That's
industry.
right.
Every brand now says ASMBS guidelines.
Way
Every
to
brand.
go. That is fantastic. So you made the vitamin companies up their game, up their standards for
Right.
the benefit of the patient.
Because we marketed it against the guidelines. We didn't say anybody didn't do something. We taught the patient how to read the label, and then the patient could be like, if I'm going to take Flintstones, I've got to take a bottle a day to get my B12 in because there's not enough B12 in
Hello.
it. It was
Okay, all
huge.
you Flintstone vitamin people out there, listen to this. You're not getting what you need. Do you know what? I always tell patients it matters because if you're pregnant, you take a prenatal vitamin. Why? Your body needs different things. When
Right.
you're a post op, depending on the surgery you had, you need different things. So you did that too, Laura.
Yeah.
You broke it down by surgery. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, we did because different surgeries, it wasn't me. Again, all I did was be loud. Like it wasn't me. The ASMBS, it's a whole system, and we'll go into it in bariatric care. But what I'm saying here is the ASMBS had already done the work. Different surgeries require different things. A
Right.
VSG isn't going to be as deficient as a gastric bypass. A
Uh-huh.
duodenal switch is the most deficient. It's the most extreme bypass surgery you can have. A lap band back in the day didn't have to take anywhere near what the rest of us did. But the ASMBS did that, and it's based off science of all the practices, and every practice has to turn in. There's an MBSA quip. It's a whole thing that for them to be certified and be part of the ASMBS, they have to turn in like their patients and the
Bunch of
results and how much
data.
weight they kept. And so all of that, when they changed the ASMBS guidelines on vitamins, it's because it's based on patients. It's based on facts, so the ASMBS had already done it. If you went back in
Right.
the day, and I haven't been on it in a long time, but the ASMBS website, you could go on and find guidelines. And so it already existed. It's just you weren't taught,
Right.
period.
And the vitamin companies weren't saying, if you had this surgery, take this vitamin.
And there were a lot of
So,
vitamin companies that would literally, I've had conversations with reps from vitamin companies from other brands back in the day. And I would be a fighter. I'd be like, why are you combining vitamins? And why is this? And da 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 da. And why do you tell them they can do this? They can't do this. It doesn't meet guideline. And they'd say, you know what? Patients are lazy. And isn't something better than nothing?
oh my God, that is terrifying. And this is coming from vitamin reps.
Yeah. Well, the
Oh, that's
companies, because their mentality was patients aren't going to do all that. So we're going to provide something is better than nothing was a phrase that someone out there used to say all the time. And I said, but it's not up to you to decide that for me. If
right.
I want to say I'm not willing to take these three things this many times a day, and I'm willing to play poker, right? And maybe I'll be deficient, maybe I won't. But don't show me a bottle and say this is all that you need to be healthy and da da da, and it meets the guy. It does not. If I
And it's
choose
not
to
true.
be lazy and do me, you know, somebody always used to say good, better, best. Teach me best and let me decide to be good.
Right.
You don't get
Right.
to decide that, you know what, this is probably the best that you'll ever do. So here you go. So
Wow.
in
That's
our,
kind of sad.
right.
What do
And I
you
don't,
want for your health, people? What do you want for your health?
I want
And
it
that's
all.
not,
I want the best.
it is with vitamins, but it is with all the things that we are working on in bariatric care to help people be more consistent with. But
So
this
I'm
month,
thinking of
the
all of
deep
that.
dive is on vitamins.
Right. And this is, but I also want everybody that watches or listens to know, take the vitamins and think about movement and think about, head work and think about all the different things,
Right.
because education supports consistency.
And
Because
how
when
do,
I got,
how do you mean that? Yeah. How do you mean
well,
that?
what I mean is this, I got terrified when I'm in the hospital having bags of blood going, how did I get here? What happened? Am I dying? I was that scared, but
Right.
I got educated, and then I got mad, and then I got more educated, and I learned about all these vitamin brands that people used to call, oh, they're designer vitamins. It's not a Louis Vuitton bag. This is what your body needs. People would say, oh, I buy my vitamins at the drugstore. Those are designer. You don't, they're not the same. It's not the same. A bariatric vitamin is specifically formulated with the needs of a bariatric patient's metabolism. It's totally different. But literally, I got mad. Then I did research. Then I became passionate. Then I went to work in the industry. And the more educated I got, the more consistent I was. Like I had vitamin alarms on my phone. I taught everything I learned. I would go live on Facebook under that brand and I would teach it. And I might say the words wrong. I would get in trouble for saying things wrong. I would get corrected because everybody was freaking out because nobody talked about those things. Nobody taught patients that thing. But the more educated you get, the more consistent you get because you know the whys.
Yes. So,
The,
yes, so let me just restate that. So, as a patient, Laura Preston, who has that beautiful passion and anger motivated or whatever, you learned all you needed to know. So you're providing what you learned to people. So once a person has the education, then if I believe I am worth following through with everything because of what I went through, the choices I made to have bariatric surgery, to live a healthier lifestyle, I want the best for myself. I'm going to take that education and I'm going to apply it to my life.
But it
So
goes
education
everywhere.
can be a
Right.
game changer.
And it is. And it's even like if you take movement, for example, like we all like I love Peloton. I want to get on a bike and thump, thump, thump music. I am cardio, high adrenaline. I hate sitting still. I hate yoga, strength training. If I don't have a trainer yelling at me, I don't like, I don't. But again, the more educated you get when you go into fitness and they talk about that it is cardio, strength, and flexibility. Those are the three core. There's three core vitamins. There's three areas of, fitness and movement. And literally, guess what? You hit 50, flexibility kind of matters, doesn't it, Connie?
Yes. Yes, it
Like
sure does because I'm much
flexibility,
older than that.
right? You don't want to do yoga when you're 20 and you think, whatever, I'm just going to go take a hip hop class. I'm not. Strength training matters when you're 70 years old and your core is weak and your bones and the osteoporosis. The more educated you get in the whys, guess what? You're going to do more strength training when you understand what happens as your body ages.
Right. And
You're gonna do more
unfortunately,
flexibility and stretching when you understand muscles and atrophy and what age is gonna bring to you, and it's that whole thing when we were kids, someday you'll understand. Someday
yeah,
you'll understand.
exactly. And I was going to say, human nature being what it is, we don't really take heed until there's a crisis. You
Oh,
started your deep dive into vitamins when you had your crisis.
mhm,
I took a deep dive into the world of therapy and recovery and whatever when I had my own crisis with
mhm.
addiction, right? So we're trying to help people avoid the crises that it often takes by having this knowledge and making an informed decision to remain consistent.
And the crisis happens in vitamins, in movement, in addiction. The crisis happens in emotional eating. The crisis, and
Right.
it's life. We know life is a roller coaster. So when you have consistent things, measurables that you're educated on, like head work, and I don't even want to send you off on a tangent, but surgery is all about it's not about emotional eating, it's not about head work, it's not about why you eat. It's about get the surgery, get through it, eat your protein, do so pray to God when you come on the other side, you find the Connies and all the therapists and the people
Right.
out there in the programs because you're going to have a crisis. You're going to get fired from your job and you're going to want to eat the house, right? Your
Right.
husband's going to want a divorce or your wife is going to run away with the milkman. Whatever it is,
What's a
crisis is going to
milkman?
happen. Crisis is going to happen. So when you go back to the God of Doings, as someone that had bariatric surgery, and it can be anybody, it doesn't have to be a bariatric patient.
Right.
Consistency matters. It is a routine. You show up for it. And when you layer it with accountability and when you have success at things, that self-efficacy, I can never say that word,
Efficacy. Mhm.
self-efficacy comes in because when you get success under you or when you close apple rings for a whole week, I'm not going to drop the ball now. I can do this.
Right.
Look, I can do this.
Right.
And it stacks you up. And when your iron levels are depleted and you find the vitamin, and then your first time your labs aren't shitty, oh my God, I can do this. I can do this. This is a great vitamin. It's helping me. It's
Yeah.
saving me. And you're going to tell everybody. So it
Well,
is a stack.
it is. And consistency is equivalent to prevention. And in medicine, they're really working on prevention of high blood pressure, prevention of stroke, prevention of diabetes, prevention of cancer. And it's consistently behaving in ways toward our body with the food we put in, whether or not we take the vitamins, whether or not we engage in strength training, flexibility, cardio. If we do those things consistently, we're preventing problems down the road. So, this is one area. These are several areas in which you can be consistent. And that's why we're providing this information to you. This podcast is free. The Gotta Do'ems are free. There is so much information out there that is free. There's also paid things for you to get additional information, a little more personalized care, a little more digging deep, like the class I do online, Gain While You Lose, which is starting again in March, or the Bariatric Care Complete program that you and I are both very active in. So there's opportunities for people, whether or not they have money to spend on things or not, because there's a lot of great information out there. So it's an individual decision, and the more consistent you are, the more prevention of future problems there will be.
Yeah. And that's why after 19 years, almost 19 years, I still consistently show up. I don't work in the vitamin industry anymore. So
Right.
everybody like I have experience in the vitamin industry. I have painful pain points that put me into the vitamin industry that made me go crazy, that made me learn everything, that made me want to teach every patient. Like that was my goal in life. I don't care. I'm just teaching people how to take vitamins because if you aren't going to do it, practices, they're going to come to Obesity Help and I'm going to teach them. I'm going to send you home with the recipe card and you can go look in your
Right.
cupboard. And I don't care what brand you buy anymore. Just make good choices. Make good choices. There are so many options out there. And, but also, I'm going to go back to education because you can't trust what people tell you. There are so many options out there. Get educated, do your homework. And I'm going to go on patches aren't a thing, people. It's easy. Again, do you want good, better, best? Like it's easy, but there's no scientific data that proves that you can absorb vitamins through a patch on your arm. Find me a study with bariatric patients. We're not doing Nicoderm patches, kids.
Right.
Totally different thing, kids. How does it absorb and get into your body? So, like, you do your research, but I'm always going to say this because at 19 years out, I don't need to be on Obesity Help's websites. I don't
Right.
need to be in bariatric care. I don't need to be, I choose to stay dug in. For me personally, because once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Once you struggle with obesity, regain, I forever.
You know
And
what?
and you have to get educated on what your happy is and
Right.
what is it. It's not the lowest number you ever saw on the scale. You need to, after 19 years, I am consistently on my scale once a week, every Monday. I consistently eat my protein. I prioritize. I eat sugar. Absolutely, I do. I don't drink alcohol. Drank alcohol after, got a DUI, like had a horrible experience and literally said, I'm out, I'm done. There's not one thing alcohol does for a bariatric body. This DUI, I was never a big drinker. I had a freak nightmare thing happen to me, but it cured me of my life. But the scale, learning about nutrition, I got certified as a health coach. I listen to podcasts all the time. I've taken classes. I've gone into fitness extremes before. I'm educated on obesity, but I form my own educated opinion. I have my own opinion about GLPs. I have my own opinion about vitamins, and I base it on education because I want to know what's coming. I want to know the new surgeries coming out. I want to know what's a benefit. I want to know things I can put in my toolbox, so to say, but I keep watching from all angles and I stay dialed in to fitness and nutrition and all the things, but I stay in community because they always say, if you don't lose it, you don't got to find it. Stay ready. You don't have to get ready. Stay in community. You don't have to be
Yeah,
in it all day, every day like you were in the very beginning. But when you're going through the divorce and now you're emotional eating, if you lost your community 10 years ago, trust me, the community today is not the same community it was 10 years ago. It's
for
a whole new
sure.
world out there. It's whole new
For sure.
platforms. It's crazy out there.
Yeah.
And the
You
amount of
know,
education in bariatrics today from when I started, if you came back today, you'd be like, what are you even talking about?
exactly. And I'll tell you, the work that I have done for as long as you've had your surgery, I have been working in this field, providing videos, providing books, providing classes, providing this bariatric care support community. And people will say to me, you know what, Connie? I've had people say this to me. People don't want what you're selling. And I'm like, you know what? What I'm selling and giving away isn't for people who need it because everybody needs it. We all need that work. We all need the information. We all need the reminders and the education that people like you provide in this community, in the bariatric care community. My programs are for people who want it, for the people who want it like you want to know what is out there. What is this and how is this affecting my body? For people who want to succeed long term, they are the ones who stay in the community. They are the ones who seek out the education. They are the ones who get mad when they find out, why didn't anybody tell me this? They're the ones who look for it. So, my business is for people who want it. And if that's not very many of them because they think surgery is going to be the be all and end all, or now the GLPs are going to be the be all and end all, because the people who use the GLPs also have to do the consistent lifestyle work. It's no different than any other form of weight loss. It may help you get the weight off, but if you don't do the consistent work, you'll never keep the weight off.
But I also think about people like you, like there's two customers for you, for vitamin brands, for everybody. There's proactive, preventative. And I
Right.
was that customer in the beginning because I tried to learn everything there was. But then you're also going to have the person that now is, I need help. I'm bottomed out. I got to start over. So it might not be your customer today because they know everything, right? I don't need you. I lost 150 pounds. Look at me. I'm fabulous. Give them time. They'll come.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
need vitamins, da, 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 da. I take it. My labs are fine. Call me in 5.
Yep.
Give it
See
time.
you when you start
Like,
the regain.
right.
See you when you
And
start the
right.
regain.
And it's true for every I mean, it's true across the board because the
Right.
thing is, it's a lifetime commitment. It needs to be a
Obesity is a
lifetime.
lifetime disease. It's a chronic disease.
It's a
It's a
chronic
lifetime and
disease.
it's whole person. It's not just the weight loss. It's your mind, it's your body, it's your attitude, it's your everything.
And life is going to throw you pivots. Like I said, you're going to get divorced, you're going to get
Yeah,
fired from your job, you're going to have parents that you know, things come that you will never think. Like as you age, things happen. Not just that, but your own mental, head, anxiety, stress, different pieces, aging parents, different factors that are going to
that's right.
hit your life. And guess what? Emotional eating, here I come, or diversion, or I don't have time to take my vitamins right now, or I don't have time to walk a mile around the subdivision right now. I don't have because life just keeps moving.
Right.
So it is a
And
lifetime commitment, and it
and
has to be a lifetime commitment.
if you're consistent with the gotta do'ems and the head work, because my new list of gotta do'ems has both biological things, the physical, take the vitamins, drink the water, do the exercise, but there's also emotional gotta do'ems. Just to keep at the forefront of your mind. You don't have to make a checklist every day on every one of the emotional gotta do'ems, but look at it because these are the areas you want to keep increasing in your efficacy. I think I can. But if you consistently follow those behaviors, the gotta do'ems, they'll become a habit so that when life does turn into a pivot. And if anybody knows this, if life is happening, it's you. You've got all kinds of things happening that have disrupted your normal life. Sick parents, sick dog, all kinds of things. And yet, because you have been consistent, you haven't gone off the rails with your
Not
health
yet.
because
But
you've
people
developed habits.
right. Today, I was ready to lose my mind, and I literally took the dog, the palliative care dog, put her in her buggy, put her little winter coat on her because I had to
Aw,
walk. I had to get outside. I had to get some air. I had to get some sunshine. I had to change my mindset. I threw on a podcast, and was gone 30 minutes because I have to use the tools because I would have eaten the house, killed somebody. Like, I mean, I literally was wound. But after 19 years, I have a big toolbox only because I've taken Gain While You Lose and I've done the gotta do'ems and I've taken the courses and I've done the certifications and so I know you got to keep breathing, you got to stay, you got to focus, you got to do the things
mhm,
left, right. And that's what's key. But I think it's really important that I love the fact we're doing a case study and we're using vitamins as an example because consistency, it's the thing people are like, I'm out, But I also think when we talk about education, you need it from different pieces. And that's why I'm
right.
really excited about the upcoming couple podcasts because
Absolutely.
you came on as a therapist and talked about accountability and you talked about consistency and self-efficacy. Like, can you do it? I can do it. You talked about it. And then you reached out and said to me, will you come talk about being 19 years and being consistent? And, did you believe you could do it? And did you always do it? No, I've had regain. I've taken off 70 pounds of regain before. Like, I try to be, that's why I get on a scale every Monday. So I've learned from mistakes. Like, I've learned why I need to be consistent and why I
Mhm.
need to be accountable because I've tried to be the know-it-all and do things, right? That's why I'm excited about the next two episodes because you're also going to bring science in because as a
Right.
patient, when you're listening to this, you need to find other patients that have been there, that have fallen, stood back up. You can learn from their mistakes like guardian little angels. Okay. I
Right.
had one of those when I was Yvonne McCarthy for the rest of my life, will be my
Oh,
big
love
sister
her.
guardian angel. Right. But we're going to
Mhm.
bring two guests in the next couple of weeks. And one of them is going to bring crazy science. They're going to bring
Right.
science. They're going to bring facts. They can talk ASMBS. And there's a little twist to it that I'm excited to share in that
Yes.
episode. She
Yes.
is magic. So she's going to come in. So as a patient, you've heard from the oldie but goodie, the long-term patient, right?
Mhm.
You're going to hear from the working medical, scientific, credentialed, letters behind her name, professional. And then we're going to throw in another one that's a little bit like me that put their money to the pavement and built something, another fixer. We're going to talk to another fixer.
Right.
So
Right.
you're going to have all this education. So that got to do them. You better not screw up that consistency because we're going to give it to you from science, from personal experience with deficiencies. Hello. And we're going to give it to you from the whys. Why start a vitamin
Yeah.
company? Why would you do that?
Yeah. So, what I want everybody to make sure you heard in this from you and your amazing and vulnerable sharing of how you bottomed out and how you learned it was because of these vitamin deficiencies and what you did to not only help yourself, Laura, but make a huge, huge impact in this community for the patients and the vitamin companies. And I thank you for that. But you are a great example of, I think I can do things in life. You've got self efficacy, right? And so you used that developed skill based on, I learned I can do things by doing them. And you were consistent in your pursuit of knowledge. You became consistent in taking your vitamins. You had accountability help, people teaching you, people encouraging you, people following you. Those are all forms of accountability. And as that happened, your consistency increased and your self efficacy grew. So while we're focusing just on vitamins this month, this is a formula
Mhm.
that works for all of the gotta doums.
Yep.
So thank you so much for being a living example of how these three things work together in this one particular area. You've got so much wisdom and experience. It's great. So I look forward to you being with me as we do these next interviews because you're the one with the experience in this area. So it's going to be wonderful to. And as you're listening to this, if you don't have a copy of the Gotta Doums, then get yourself one. Info at ConnieStapletonPhD.com. And we'll send you a new updated version of this. So you can work this whole month just on the vitamin Gotta Do 'em. Just that, if that's all you can handle right now. But make that a
It's a good
focus.
place to start. It's for
It
the
sure the
rest
heck
of
is.
your life. It's an investment, that time. You're going to learn things. I mean, and it's not going to be a total deep dive, you know what I mean? But you're going to hear from science. You're going to hear from, you're going to hear the pieces that should make that red light turn on. And I'm saving you the hospital visit. I'm saving you the infusion. But if you're somebody that's not consistent in vitamins, we're using this as an example. And it should turn
Exactly.
that red light on for you to decide, I'm going to get accountable. I'm going to get educated. I'm going to get consistent. I'm pulling that crap out of the cupboard. I'm lining it up. We're going to deep dive into those pieces and it should send you on your way. Because the thing is once you get consistent in it, now it's time to go do some more work. Pick a
Yes.
thing.
So
I'm not a vitamin girl anymore. I'm not here to sell vitamins. That's not my shtick anymore. I'm going back to school. I'm studying right now to become a medical assistant, maybe in a bariatric practice, maybe in a geriatric practice. Right now, I'm mad at somebody else. I'm mad at the healthcare system. We
look
can
out,
fix
here
it.
she comes.
That's right.
You're you're
I
off
can
to
help
change
you out.
another industry.
But that's the thing. And that is, before we leave it, that's advocacy. When I was leaving that
Self-advocacy.
last vitamin place I lived, my passion coming out of there was advocacy.
Yep.
Teach, teach,
Yes.
advocate for yourself, demand good health care, ask the questions, get the labs, ask why, fight for your preventative, proactive health care. Like
Right.
that's always been my shtick, but it used to be little and it used to be vitamins. Now it's my shtick on it all.
I got it. So join us next week because you're going to learn about each of the vitamins and the absolute reason they are so critical for your ongoing
We're gonna
health.
dig into science.
All
We're
right,
gonna talk.
friends.
We're gonna take the big stuff, the ASMBS and all that big language stuff. I ain't teaching it. That's not my shtick anymore. It's been a minute. We're gonna let a credentialed, letters behind the name science person. We're gonna ask her all the right questions.
Yeah. So you're going to want to be here for it. And thank you again, Laura. And speaking of accountability and consistency, you have some homework you're accountable for. And so you're going to go implement your consistency of doing a little bit of your homework every day and do it right now, correct?
I am pharmacology, and I have an appointment.
All right. I promise not to bother you the rest of the night. All right, friends. Thanks for being with us. Bye bye.